Hi everybody. Oops. So we're back for our final video number 4. And this is hopefully going to kind of wrap up this journey of, my own process of working through behavioral issues and things like that. Um, and hopefully kind of inspire you to find ways that work well for your own situations. And then, of course, to give you something super awesome, guys. I'm really excited about your materials. My daughter has not stopped touching them, but we'll get to that. So, in the previous video, I kind of shared my my own little bit of a transition here from feeling super confident as a mother to then feeling like I knew nothing. I used to kind of joke and say, this was an exercise in coping with constant failure because that's what it felt like for me. It was very much so where I would try all the things that all the books said, and I was doing everything I felt like I was supposed to do, and nothing was ever working. And so I reached this point where I had to accept that for whatever reason, we weren't going to be following the normal path. And so a lot of that I kind of was able to make peace with. But there were still times when I definitely really, really struggled. And so I kind of shared like two kind of critical moments towards the end here where I finally went ahead and pushed and sought out help, to get an official diagnosis. And I'm not saying that every child, should have is going to have this same kind of thing happen. Not every kid that you struggle with, be it your own or others, sometimes they really do just have super high needs. And sometimes they really do have things that are a little atypical, but in the end, like those are differences in personalities. And so before I go into why those two particular moments that I shared are so relevant to me, I do want to encourage you to, number one, don't second guess yourself. Whether you're a parent or a grandparent or a foster parent, if something seems wrong, please, please don't let everyone dismiss it as just a phase, because that's what happened with us. And every time we would make some forward progress, I would kind of let myself relax and go, okay, it really was just a phase. But I want to encourage you that if you really do feel like something is not right, to continue to advocate and to push to get answers. We have some really fantastic resources that we connect with, and that we can put you in touch with. I can't claim to have all the answers, but we certainly can get you in touch with people who might be able to give you more of the answers and direct you, you know, on your own path. And so that's kind of the first thing. I will definitely be including resources for some of our, partner affiliated programs, such as the U of A for hearing and vision screenings, um, and social, emotional, developmental. We have a lot of connections with other programs, and so I definitely want to make it known that we do have resources that we can put you in touch with, because even if we don't have the answers, we can find people and lead you to people that are more knowledgeable than us. So, first takeaway, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to trust your gut and push to get answers that make sense to you, that make you go, yeah, okay, this is what we got going on. So, based on that first little thought, the two important things that I wanted you to understand when I shared this, previous story time is, firstly, in that scenario of being in the park with my daughter and having that moment where I just kind of like snapped and then watching how that small interaction had a lasting effect on her. Um, Something so minor, right? And just could have happened in passing. I could have just let it go and went on my way. But here's the thing, um, it is important that we show our children and that we show our kiddos that number one, we are human and we are going to make mistakes. It is very important, in my opinion, that we should normalize not being perfect to our kiddos. So, for example, um, I know I'm not perfect. I've had a lot of moments that I'm not proud of, but what you have to do in order to move forward is you take those moments and you accept that they happened, but then you utilize them as a really powerful teaching moment. So for example, when I did that snapping at Olivia in the park and I knew that I had messed up and made a mistake, I immediately pulled her aside and I tried to model to her what it looked like and how you should go about admitting that you were wrong, asking for forgiveness, and trying to make it right. Uh, there are going to be a lot of times when we do things that, well, in hindsight, we probably shouldn't have done that, right? And rather than just move on and say to yourself, well, I'm an adult, I don't need to, apologize to these kids. The fact of the matter is that moment right there is more valuable to you and to them than any amount of talking and explaining. Um, if you can put your pride aside and be vulnerable with your child and say, I'm so sorry, I lost my temper. You know, I was feeling very frustrated. I, um, I felt that I wasn't being listened to, or whatever it is that was the reason that caused you to snap or to yell or to lose your patience, right? If you take that moment and use it as the teaching tool that it can be, that is super powerful because you're showing them that it's okay not to be perfect. It's okay to make a mistake. And it's important that we learn from our mistakes and that we try our best to make them right. And so that has been something that I really try to live by. Um, when I have a maybe less than stellar parenting moment or less than stellar moment with the kids in my care, which will happen, it's totally normal. It's important that you take a moment to stop and to show them that you are totally capable of making mistakes, and this is how intelligent, emotionally stable adults try to make those situations right. That in itself, in my opinion, is something that I don't think a lot of people feel comfortable doing. Um, there's this idea that as adults, like that we've got all the answers and that we are not accountable to the kids, like they just do as I say, not as I do. But in reality, we are accountable to them because the things that we do, the words that we say, the choices we make, they are going to affect them. And if you make a mistake, it's okay, but you need to try your best to make that mistake a learning moment for them so that they can see how to handle these situations as they encounter them. So that is kind of, you know, one of my golden rules that I try to hold myself accountable to is that if I make a mistake and if I have a moment of not greatness, that I need to calm down and then take a moment to talk real one-on-one with your child and try to make it better because they deserve the same respect that you would give to another adult. If you made a mistake, if you got in a fight, they deserve that same respect and that same amount of attention and trying to make it better. So I want to encourage everybody to, if you don't already do it, to try to be a little more vulnerable and to try to be a little more honest. Um, Secondly, the moment with Amelia kind of ties back into that very first point that I made, where even when, like, as kids are in this process of developing their emotional regulation skills and things like that, as we're watching them grow, there's always this like ebb and flow of struggle and success. And it can be easy when you overcome a hurdle to kind of dismiss that the hurdle was there. You know, we kind of are, oh, good, and that's over and we're off. I wish that I had trusted my gut more, and that I had advocated more and pushed more to get the official answers sooner. It always felt like people would say, well, you know, I hear what you're saying, but it's just a phase. It's just a phase when your child has tantrums. It's just a phase. You know, and it was always kind of like dismissed by the most logical answer, which is great. We don't need to be jumping to crazy conclusions. But I wish that I had trusted myself more, and that I had pushed to get an answer I could feel comfortable with sooner. So that that moment, you know, at 4.5, when I saw something that I could no longer argue with, that I couldn't dismiss and kind of like explain it away in my mind, I wish that I had been able to do that sooner, because that was really kind of that culminating moment where, like, even though we had gotten past all these really challenging parts along the way, I saw that and I knew like I could no longer explain that away as something that was just, you know, because of the age or just whatever the reason was. Like, it was, I couldn't say, yep, that's normal, because I knew it wasn't normal. And so when you encounter a moment like that, don't second guess yourself. You don't have to have all the answers, but don't just let it be dismissed if you have true concerns, because as we all know, early intervention is absolutely crucial. And when we don't push for the things that our kiddos need, sometimes they get to be 5 years old before they could be getting services that they should have gotten at 2, you know, and that's something that I regret. And I hope that, you know, I hope that it wasn't so detrimental that I waited so long to finally put my foot down and say, I need somebody to listen to what I'm saying and to take it seriously. I wish I had done that sooner. So if you find yourself in that situation, I encourage you to continue to advocate, to put your foot down. If you need to reach out and find out if what you're seeing is really a big deal, or if it's just a kind of a weird thing in developmentally, you know, like this is just something you see before they become verbal or whatever. If you ever find yourself like questioning whether or not something is normal or not, I encourage you to reach out. Reach out to one of the family child care specialists in the program, or reach out to the group as a whole. We have this page as a reason to like, as a community for us. So I think a lot of times we don't want to put those vulnerable moments out there, but if you find yourself needing another pair of eyes and ears, or, you know, maybe a more experienced opinion, I think that this community can do that. And I think that we all want to do that. We all want to share our knowledge and our experiences. I know for me, this training is kind of my way of showing that, yes, I have a lot of good ideas when it comes to, you know, activities or sensory play ideas or any number of things. But I also think there's something to be said just for basic support, because a lot of times in this job that we are all doing, it can be a really lonely job, and we take on the burdens all to ourselves. So I want to encourage you to utilize our group as a support for yourself, and to utilize, the fellow family child care specialists like myself, Sonia, Lindsay, and then, obviously Danny. She's new, but she's just as knowledgeable. Um, and so, even if you've never spoken to us before, I encourage you to reach out if you have questions or concerns. This is what we're supposed to be here to do. So, if you feel like you're losing it and no one's listening to you, we will listen to you. I know I can speak for myself. I will listen to you because I know what it's like to feel dismissed and to feel like, well, it's just a phase. I swear, if I could have, like, that was the thing that really, man, I just got so tired of hearing that. So let me give you a little brief backstory of the phases we went through. And I'll kind of offer up some ways that we figured them out, what worked for us. But I certainly don't have all the answers and all the ways that work. So if you have dealt with one of the things I'm going to currently talk about here in just a moment, I'd love it if you drop them in the comments and share your wealth, because I don't have all the answers. I never claim to. So I think we can really focus all of our good ideas and compile them, and maybe we might just crack the code to some of these difficult situations. So, that being said, quick sip of water. Thank you. Whew. Okay, we talked about that infant stage, right? In video 1, kind of video 2. Learning to understand and address the cries. That was my first, challenging moment, right? As she got older, the second challenging moment was that tantrum meltdown scenario that we had happening. And the most concerning thing was that it was like I couldn't get her out of the tantrum no matter what we did. Even if I gave in, because at a point in time I became desperate to find a way to break her out of the tantrum. I now know that those weren't just tantrums, but that they were actually like a full-blown meltdown, and that's kind of a different thing that's happening. So one of the things that I tried first was ignoring it. Don't give attention to it, right? I'm not gonna give you attention because you're acting like a mess. So for example, when we're walking through the zoo and she starts having a tizzy because I won't buy the ice cream or whatever it was, there was a time when she actually threw herself down on the ground in the zoo and wah, right? And she refused to continue walking forward with us. Now, I basically kind of stood around her, making sure that she wasn't going to get injured and, someone stepping on her. And then I let her have her tantrum. And as people walk by, I was just like, sorry, everyone, we're having a little bit of a peaceful protest. Just everything's fine. Just move on along. We're going to get it all under control and we'll be on our way. And I think sometimes we get embarrassed if our kid's having a tantrum in the middle of a store, when really the more we feel about it, the weirder that tantrum's going to get and the more intense, right? When sometimes if we can just kind of mentally make a note that I don't care what these people think, I'm going to handle this and when it's over and we'll move on with our day. Sometimes when you kind of take that more this isn't making me feel super embarrassed and stressed out, even if it is, it can make it easier. The child sees that you're not getting worked up. They realize that they're not having, any kind of result that's, working. And so sometimes they're able to just, all right, well, I'm done now. And then you have a conversation and you move on. So make sure your kid's in a safe space. Let them do what they got to do and tell them when they're ready, I'm right here and we'll get up and moving when you're ready. And to anyone around you who thinks or says something that might be a little, don't worry about them. Okay? Don't worry about them. Doesn't matter. Okay? You can just kind of say, oh, yeah, I know. Whoops. We just got tired, had to do a quick floor test. You know, sometimes you can kind of dismiss the tension with a little bit of your personality if that's your thing. However, when your kid's in that full blown meltdown and there is nothing that you're saying or doing that is kind of like breaking the tension, um, sometimes, well, I shouldn't say sometimes, what my child needed in those moments was not for me to be firm and stoic and to just let them keep doing their thing and, you're not getting a reaction. I mean, sometimes I had to be vulnerable and I had to stop and I had to take her in my arms and say, I can see we're really, really struggling right now, that you are having trouble calming down. Um, and this took a long time, but it has become very normal for us now. And I would say, let's try taking some deep breaths. And we would do big breath in through the nose and like almost like you're blowing bubbles. Um, and I would literally hold her and do these breaths with her, because as they can feel your body rising and falling with these breaths, it's providing that self regulation, almost like what they would have experienced in the womb, where they're literally like regulating with you as you're demonstrating it. Okay. And so I would find that just like holding her close, breathe with me. Okay, good. And let's do a really big one. And of course, as they begin to kind of work themselves out of the meltdown, it becomes easier and easier to breathe. Now, this is something that doesn't immediately work the first time. You have to continue to stick with it. But one of the most important things to understand with these deep breathing kind of exercises is that you are providing you're demonstrating how they're physically supposed to regulate that feeling. So breathe in and let's blow all those bad feelings out. And it's not going to be perfect the first time, but the second time it gets a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. And now I even see her kind of calling upon these skills, this deep breathing feeling when she's getting worked up. And I can even, instead of needing to like bring her in and, right, I can even say like, let's take some deep breaths, and I can help her to self-regulate, from a distance, from a few feet away. I'm giving her a verbal cue, like, let's take a breath before we get to that point. So everyone kind of has a different method. For what worked best for us was breathing in through the nose and breathing out through the mouth. And I would always tell them like long and slow, like you're trying to blow bubbles, because that provides a physical way to help their, that anxious, like stress response. It helps the body to break through that and work itself back down. So deep breathing, holding, understanding the difference between the tantrum and the meltdown. The tantrum is that calling cry, that protest. The meltdown is that hysterical cry. We've surpassed that I'm angry and asking for help, and now I've worked myself up so much that, like, okay, hysterical. So kind of think of them as two different things, because they very much are. I found that once I understood the difference between like her expressing her discontent with a tantrum and being totally lost to like the physical part of a tantrum, like it's worked itself well beyond anything. That's kind of when I could tell that a meltdown was actually occurring. It looks different for everybody's kids, but it's you just learn as you go. Yeah, I have two more kind of key suggestions. Um, with all of the things that you come across as a parent or child care provider, a lot of it, all these struggles, they can be kind of counteracted, or um, I guess we can kind of anticipate problems before they're going to happen. So first of all, I always like to say, like, set yourself up for success. If you're about to do a messy activity and you give the kids no way to contain the mess or keep themselves clean, you really can't be mad at them when they do exactly what probably is going to happen when you give their kid, when you give a kid paint. So you have to kind of plan ahead to counteract um, things that are going to naturally occur in this job. Kids are messy. Kids can be a little gross. We know that. So we shouldn't be surprised when they are messy and a little gross. You prepare by setting the stage for success. So if it's going to be messy, we're either going to be doing it outside, or we're going to be laying down a tarp, or we're going to be wearing like a big shirt to keep ourselves clean. There's a lot of ways you can counteract things that are going to happen. And so before you start an activity, just think, is there anything I need to take care of before I set them loose? Because if you don't take care of those things, you really can't be upset with them when they do exactly that after the fact. So setting them and yourself up for success. All right. And our last one. Let's say we're having a hard day. Okay. Everybody has different methods for what will work or won't work. But a lot of times we hear things about timeout, and it can work, okay? But in the end, we want to help our kids be able to control themselves and calm down and like refocus, right? We want them to be able to do those things on their own. So where timeout is more of a punishment that I am giving you, a consequence to something you did, right? There is a more effective way to go instead of timeout. It's the same end result, in that they have to take time and chill, right? But whereas timeout is a punishment, you can also try more of a calm down, which is not a punishment in my eyes. I would kind of consider it more like a tool that they can then call upon when they know that they need it. With practice, it becomes a skill, a tool, and a skill that they can use. So, like the deep breathing, which in the beginning I needed to guide, right? Now it has become something that she refers to and pulls up as needed. She's upset, she takes a moment and tries to start breathing, okay? So, timeout, I'm going to go put you in a spot. You're not going to get to engage in everything. I need you to stay there until you're calm again, right? Instead of having timeout be a punishment, you can change the name and pretty much get the same result. So we call ours calm down. It can be a quiet space. It can be calm town, whatever. But if you provide your kids a place, a safe place where they can go, kind of taking themselves out of a situation that's causing them anxiety, anger, that kind of thing, you can provide them with a place that they can then go to when they need a minute. Like, because, as adults, we often need a minute, right? When, how desperate we feel when kids start giving up their naps because there goes our minute, our time. Well, in the same idea, kids often are stressed out and need a minute. but they don't know how to ask for that or to give that to themselves. So we are creating a situation and a place that they can then call upon as they need it. When they need, sorry, when they need to calm down, they know they can go to this place. This is the calm zone. It is some place that is kind of out of the way, out of the middle of the room, okay, where they have some comfortable things and some comfort items like buddies or pillows or blankets, right? And then it also has um, some calm, toys or activities. So books are usually a good choice, but I also do sensory type toys in my calm area. So, for example, I have things like squishy little llama guy. I've got this is supposed to be like a bath sponge, but she took an interest to it, so it became one of those things. I've got like textured balls and pipe cleaners, soft foam blocks even, like that's something they can squeeze. I've got tops and slinkies. So we have a lot of items that kind of make it into our calm down area. And we have enough that we have a rotation. So one of the resources I'm going to post is just all of our sensory type play items. Not sensory tubs, that'll be a different thing. This is like items you could put in your calm down area. Books about emotions are a good choice as well. So I have different, like when Sophie feels angry. Even if your kids can't read, if you just provide them with these books, they're going to really, use them, look at the pictures, doesn't matter. I even have like big books in there too sometimes. This is a really, okay, so like a heat pack or a cold pack. Sometimes for kids who need a sensory input, something like this, made by the amazing Ginny Holland. Thank you so much. This is literally a washcloth or a hand towel that has been sewed, and inside is rice. Now the cool thing about it is you can heat it up and it retains like this warm, moist heat. And this is something that my daughter absolutely loves. And I absolutely love it. Sometimes she asks if I can heat up her rice pack. And so that's what we do. Because now these items have become a tool that she can call upon. Not everyone's going to love this, but some of us have things like essential oils. Lavender is an essential oil that is supposed to have a calming scent. And so this is actually just like a cheap Walmart. It's like a lavender mist, like a body spray. And we like to use this to spray things such as, our pillow at night, or even we spray, there you go. Now I'm carrying around a little bit of lavender with me. So things like that can be another option. Basically, the idea for your calm area is that you need it to be a space away from everyone else where they can be comfortable, calm, and entertained in a quiet, calm way. Okay, so you're not going to put a bunch of like musical instruments in there, right? Because that's not calm. So calm things go in the calm zone. Okay, so I'm going to take a picture and make a compiled picture of a bunch of different things that have been in our calm zones. Those will all be available as a resource so you can see some potential things that we've used. And some things that have worked for us. So I'm going to sum this up by saying that we, for your materials, have chosen some things that I'm really excited about. those items are items that can go in your calm area. So we have a gigantic cuddly ball, which you'll get to see, and a weighted like cuddle puppy. He's going to be going around the neck. So kind of like the rice packs, but don't heat your cuddle puppy, okay? It's not rice. And then we have some scented Play-Doh, okay? So the Play-Doh is very similar to this. It gives that other sensory input, plus Play-Doh, when we smush it and we squeeze it and we build with it, okay? Those are ways that we kind of like that aggression comes out in the squishing of these things. I'm going to include an attachment, very simple, for making your own Play-Doh mat for these different Play-Doh, scented Play-Dohs. It's basically a piece of paper with a head drawn on it, right? And then you can say, can you make a picture of how you're feeling with the Play-Doh? And they can smash that Play-Doh on there and they can give it some Play-Doh eyes. You can do it all with Play-Doh, or you can bring in other tools. So I'm going to have some pictures for you to see what our Play-Doh, what our scented Play-Doh is kind of going to be used for. And if you have other great ideas for how you might want to use your scented Play-Doh, please feel free to share. But ours, I'll just show you where it's currently at and how it's being used. So you will be leaving this training with the weighted cuddle puppy. He'll be around the neck. You'll see a picture of him soon. The calming cuddle ball, okay, both things that can go in a calm space, and your scented Play-Doh, which can be used in the calm space or as a calming activity. I will also be giving you ideas for ways to use those Play-Doh. That'll be posted in resources, as well as pictures of all the various sensory and just the various items that have been in our calming area over time, so that you can try to find a way to create your own calm space for the kiddos that you have. All right, well, before we call it a day, I need to make sure that you know you have to complete today's survey. It is going to be just a link. You're going to click on it and fill it out, and then, submit it back to us. If you don't do your survey, you have not officially completed the training. So make sure that you take a moment, do your survey now. That way everybody gets everything that they have coming to them. Make sure that you've signed in, commented on each video post, and that you complete the survey. And then keep an eye out in the coming days. These items that I'm going to show you for the calm down area, they're going to be coming relevant in the coming days. We have an idea coming up for a little bit of a challenge to kind of inspire you to embrace some of the options for materials you're going to get today. Not today, but you get it. And so keep an eye out for that. You'll have a post coming from me in the future by the end of this month, where you will have some opportunities to earn some more really awesome materials for your kids to help them work through intense times, and just some ideas to kind of help build those emotional regulation skills. So keep an eye out for that. It's going to be worth your while. So thank you all so much for listening and for being here, and letting me share some of this vulnerability with you, these times that are maybe not my proudest. But I want you guys to know that you're not alone if you feel like you're struggling. And if you are, you can always reach out to one of us. You can always reach out to the group. We're all here. We're all doing the same. If you feel like you've ran out of ideas, that's what we're all here for. So don't be afraid to reach out to us. We are all here for each other. And I hope that you leave this training a little bit more a little bit more like grace for yourself and forgiveness for these times that are a little bit ugly, and maybe with some ideas to help you work through and prevent any of those ugly moments in the future. So, all right, thank you all so much. You'll be getting an email with your certificate and everything for the training. So keep an eye on that, and keep an eye on the Facebook group in the coming weeks. I will talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.